Mr. Schultz, I'm a native Milwaukeean and graduate of Riverside University High School, as are you. Could you please share a few memories of growing up in Milwaukee?
Well, back in the dark ages when I was growing up, I have great memories of gigantic snowstorms, and the snow would be piled up so high we could jump out of our second story window into the into the snow. And my mother had us in everything. Boy Scouts, soapbox derby. She took us to all kinds of musicals and concert things, to unbeknown to my young mind, she was cultivating us, So, and it was a great kind of growing up place. It was small enough, safe enough, and I learned how to do a couple of things really quickly. I learned how to talk my way out of fights in elementary school. I learned how to be a diplomat, and I learned how to run when it was necessary.
This cultivation, did it play a part in the choices you've made in choosing your projects as a director or in your writing? Did they come into play?
I would have to say yes to that because everything that we experience, as a creative person, somehow it leaks out into the work. And I never did it consciously. So I don't operate from a kind of intellectual, pre-planned work. I work more by the feeling and being in the moment.
Yes.
And through my theater training, that worked out really well for me, and working with with actors, it was a real gift to be in the moment and elicit performances that were real and not kind of acted, if you know what I mean.
You got into the theater very early in the Black Revolutionary Theater movement. Meaning you were in New York working with the Negro Ensemble Company. How'd that happen? Tell us about that.
Well, I'll have to take you very quickly on my childhood journey. Graduating in 1957, I had no plan to be anywhere in the creative world at all. I was going to be Colin Powell of the Air Force. I wanted to be a general in the Air Force, and I wanted to fly jets, right? So coming out of high school, that was my focus. And I got in that year, they were putting together the first, I believe it was the first class of the Air Force Academy. And they were taking one person out of every state in the Union to make up that class. So you had to get an appointment from your congressman and take all these tests, physical and educational. And I wound up being the second highest scoring person in the state of Wisconsin, which was a good thing, but a bad thing because it meant I was like the alternate. So if the guy who beat me out had chosen not to go, I would have achieve my childhood dream, which was I would have been flying jets. I would have been a general. I would have been Colin Powell, you know. But he chose to go, and I was crushed. They gave me an appointment to West Point as a consolation prize, but I didn't want to be in the military. I didn't want to be in the Army. I wasn't thinking about killing people. I was thinking about flying. So I said, okay, they won't let me fly jets. I'll go to University of Wisconsin-Madison, where they have a great astronautical engineering program, and I'll be an astronaut. My mother, who was 5 feet tall and a real dynamo, taught my brother and I that we could do anything. So as a kid, I had no limits in terms of what I was aspiring to. So it sounded crazy at the time, but I was going to be an astronaut. I get to astronautical engineering school, and in the first year, I discover I am not supposed to be doing this. I don't like engineers. Calculus is giving me a really hard time, and something is telling me you have a different destiny, you know. And I did not know what that was. So in my sophomore year, I just took the courses that I wanted to take. I took Russian, Chinese, astronomy. I thought maybe I'd be a diplomat, you know, and I knew those two countries were going to be the people we were going to have to deal with in the future. But I spent most of my free time in this little theater in Madison, Wisconsin, that played all these great movies from great filmmakers from around the world. Japanese filmmakers, French, Italian, Spanish, and they were telling stories that were way more interesting to me than Hollywood stories. And I'm sitting, sophomore college student, sitting in the back of this theater saying, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could tell stories like that, because we have so many stories to tell that need to be told, that people need to hear, you know, so that they know who we really are, not who they think we are or who the news says we are, you know. And I had no clue as to how to get that, how to do that. Couldn't afford to go to film school. There were only 3 at the time, USC, UCLA, and NYU. So a friend of mine says, why don't you go, Marquette has a good theater program, why don't you go there? So I wind up back up a little bit. Because I had all these great scores for the military, the Vietnam War was heating up. And I had no intention of being drafted. So I said, I better get my behind back in school. And then my friend says, why don't you go to Marquette and join their theater program? So fortunately, I got in, and the price of being part of that theater program was every student had to go to voice class, dance class, acting class, had to build sets, make costumes, design lights. And if you didn't do all of that, you weren't in the theater program, you know? And the academics were secondary. And the priest who ran the program said, you're going to live, breathe, and eat theater. And it's up to you to handle your English and your history and whatever else they're teaching you, but I'm teaching you theater. When I went to New York, I did not want to be an actor. I hated acting. I wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to be behind the lights, but I had to take all of those classes to be in the program. So when I went to New York, I could do almost anything that was required, you know. And so it didn't take long before I got a job as an assistant stage manager working on a brand new theater called the American Place Theater. The first set of plays they were doing, one of the one-act plays was based on the Amistad incident that Spielberg made a movie of many years later. And there were these great New York actors in the play. Roscoe Lee Brown, remember him?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Frank Langella, the young Frank Langella, was playing the Spanish captain. And they needed an actor to play Frank Langella's manservant. And they looked at me and said, "Oh, yeah, you look like the type. Why did you read for it?" Which I did not, but I wind up on stage acting in this play with all these great New York actors. And I'm thinking more like a director instead of, doing my job. I'm thinking, well, they really should be over here, not over there, and they should say the line this way and not that way. But the play went on to win 5 Obie Awards for the best of everything. And then we cut a record of it. And then for PBS, we did a TV version of it. And coming out of the shoot, I said, "Oh, well, this ain't that hard, you know?" But it took me about a year to convince somebody to let me direct the play. But the theater was my way of getting to do a film. And my collegiate brain said to me, go to New York, make a reputation as a director in theater, and somebody will offer you a movie. It's that easy, you know? So that's what I did.